Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar today, which is a conversation with a leading professional, the managing director of WXY, a leading award-winning architecture and planning firm. Our guest today is Amy Howe, who is the managing director. She joined the company in the fall of 2015. Amy and I have had the chance to work together through some of these very testing times. And we are very lucky that she took her time out of her busy schedule to be here with us and share her expertise with us. The idea that we have behind these webinars is that we're all in this together. The COVID-19 pandemic has created an unprecedented situation, and all of us as professionals, we are doing our best to continue to face the challenges and to grow and thrive and deal with all these multiple challenges that are created. And we are in this together. This is a team effort, and our conversation today will, I hope, highlight some of those features of collaboration, and also an opportunity for those of us that are participating to learn. I do encourage all of you to ask your questions either via email to myself. The email should be in the program description that went around, but it's mo.sayed@offitkurman.com. We also have a chat feature in the GoToWebinar program where you can enter your questions. A few just points. The webinar recording will be available after the program. So for those of you who can send it to other folks that weren't able to participate, you can certainly go back and use the link to view the program. Let me give a quick intro of Amy, and then we'll get right into our program. So just by the way, I'm an immigration attorney in our Bethesda office, if you didn't know that. So prior to joining her current employer, Amy was the Director of Administration and External Affairs at the Noguchi Museum, where she was part of the senior management team that stewarded the legacy of the artist's estate into a world-renowned museum. During her tenure, she played a significant role in increasing the institution's capacity, expanding its outreach and programs, overseeing its multi-phase $23 million capital project, and the development of the master plan. She serves on her local community board and is a member of the board of the Asian American Arts Alliance. So Amy, how are you today?
Great. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to introduce our firm, and I have to apologize to all your audience that we had a little bit of a technical glitch and I can't figure out my Mac, and so you're seeing my full screen with the navigation on top, so apologize for that. But I'm really so grateful to have had this conference, this period of time working with Mo. It's just been a very recent working relationship, and when he asked me to speak to you all, I took the opportunity, and definitely want to start by introducing our firm first. I think Mo had asked me to kind of take into consideration some of these introductions. So I put together a small deck, and it's not the most illustrative of all our work. It's just a snapshot of some of the projects that we do. The firm's name is WXY, and founded by Claire Weiss, the W, and Mark Yost, the Y. And they founded this firm in 1993. And I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the X later, but for now, we'll just skip to what we do. So unlike a typical architecture firm, most of our projects and the way Claire and Mark have really focused the firm's energy is to design very innovative solutions for public spaces, infrastructure, and community development, and all kinds of scale in these different urban situations, whether if it's a design for a water fountain versus a whole entire master plan for a campus or a community. And in their outset, you know, they have had a great interest in the civic life of the city. And really, we do not do, you know, the typical luxury towers or the hotels or anything like that, but we're really focused on what is best for our urban settings. In 2006, Claire invited in another partner by the name of George Lang Pugh, who has been really able to help us amplify the architecture because of the type of infrastructure work that we do. A great deal of it is very complicated with many changes. Sometimes projects can take 10 years to finish because of various challenges, whether it's budgetary or community concerns, whatever. And in light of all of the work that we do, you know, much of it really boils down to really looking at before you start a project, the planning part. So in 2011, another partner was invited, Adam Lubinsky. And so really kind of creating two arms of our firm, the architecture and the planning, and how they speak to one another. The cross-section of how all this work is done is really right starting at the very beginning with community voices participating and looking at not just a singular building, but the whole entire site and how it must function within a community. So I'm going to take you now through some of our top 5, 6 projects, and I won't talk very long about these, but you might be familiar with some. One of our most successful is this Rockaway Boardwalk. And, you know, if you are familiar with New York City and Queens, you'll all remember that Hurricane Sandy in 2012 really decimated the neighborhood. And we were tasked by the city and a lot of the Army Corps of Engineers and resiliency groups to look at rebuilding a better, stronger Rockaway Boardwalk. The boardwalk was originally built in wooden planks and piers. And so after Sandy, that was all completely uplifted and destroyed. So what Claire, Mark, and Lang have done here is working with the engineers, actually elevated the boardwalk so that it's now above 8 foot above floodplain. And the finished boardwalk is about 5.5 miles long, and it's really a public space now for the community who live in the boardwalk. And our next project I want to show you is our DSNY, which stands for Department of Sanitation of New York, Salt Shed and Garage. And on the building on the left, you'll see a very faint in the facade, the DSNY logo there. That building is actually a maintenance garage and offices for 3 combined Manhattan districts that serve mostly lower Manhattan all the way through the Upper West Side. And this is where a lot of the vehicles are maintained, and all the staff from all those 3 separate districts share the building. And to the left of that, I'm sorry, to the right of that is the multifaceted salt shed. And so it's a companion building to the very, office-looking like building. The salt shed in itself is a concrete, poured concrete structure that houses about 5,000 tons of salt that's used to clear the snow every year here in New York. The elegance of that building and the way it's lit, it has become more so than just a regular salt shed that you see anywhere else. It really has functioned as a kind of a placemaker, and in fact, since it was finished, I think that you will probably see it very often in fashion shoots or in music videos. It's become very, very popular. Then the next project I want to talk about is our Battery Boss project. And again, for those who are familiar with Manhattan, New York City, downtown, Battery is the very tippy southern tip of Manhattan, and that's where you get the Staten Island Ferry, you get the Ellis Island Ferry, and it's really been a hub for tourists as well as local New Yorkers. And when Claire and Mark and Lang started working on this project, it was really a 2-acre of asphalt, and it was not at all very welcoming and warming for the neighborhood. So the task of really redesigning what that Battery area should look like, it is now, when you come to New York, you'll see a beautifully landscaped area, park, and lots of activities, including, the next slide will be, our very creative carousel for the park. It was designed sort of to commemorate, historically, the New York City Aquarium had been at this location. And instead of doing a traditional horse carousel, we wanted to do something very different. And here they really went above and beyond and created a nautilus shell as its housing, and within it, these fish elements, the rye itself, are beautifully lit, and there's actually a sound program that goes through as you're doing this ride that makes you feel like you're underwater with water trickling throughout as the music companion. And then the next 2 slides I want to show you basically has to do with some of the master planning that we do. We have in New York here, and as in many other big city, port city, the Brooklyn Army Terminal and the Brooklyn Navy Yard. In its original heydays, both of these locations were, where our military forces are based and did their shipbuilding or other tasks. And so throughout the years, of course, they have been basically been taken over by the city and not used in its original state. And we were fortunate to have worked with the city on this project on Brooklyn Army Terminal and redesigning it so that it could be reused as a master plan for new businesses. And there's lots of space in there, and it's a beautiful old historic building. And we've been really honored to help the city figure out a plan on how to activate the space, not just for businesses, but as you see out here in the public space, so that the neighborhood people who live in the community can come and actually enjoy the waterfront. This site is actually on the waterfront, and it now also has a ferry stop. So this is a natural way of thinking about how we access the water, how we can bring people to the water and create a public space for it. And the Army Terminal has actually been able to really activate this space very nicely with block parties and festivals and events, and hopefully we will all be back there again very soon. And the next project is Brooklyn Navy Yard. Again, this is another large campus where it needed to be kind of rethought and many buildings rehabilitated so that it could serve to work with the city on bringing on new economic opportunities for Brooklyn. And this is just a rendering, and we're hoping that, the city will see through some of these projects. And again, I think because, both of these master campuses are located in very dense neighborhoods, the idea of making any kind of public space and waterfront access have been, of prime concern for us, definitely. And so that ends the quick view portion of the project. And then I want to bring us back to the firm a little bit and who we are and what my role is at the firm. As most that I joined. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, don't interrupt. So this is a wonderful set of slides. Thank you for putting this together. For those of the listeners who don't have access to their computers, if they're just listening in by phone, we can make these slides available later on the portal so that folks can view them. So just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great. Should I, Mo, should I just jump in a little bit about my role and, topic of conversation?
Sure. So, the way I was thinking would be interesting is tell us a little bit about your background and then how you came into the present role and then I know you wear multiple hats and it's really interesting. So I'm sure the audience would find interesting what all you are, what your role is now. So
happy to. As Mo said, I joined the firm in 2015, and at that point, I had just, as Mo had, phrased in the bio of my background, I had been at the Noguchi Museum for many years, and I actually have had the opportunity to work with the artist Isamu Noguchi directly for about 2 years before he passed away. And after he passed away, I stayed on to work on his estate, the foundation, and now the very famous Noguchi Museum in Long Island City. I had the privilege of being there at the very beginning of the Noguchi Museum. And there, in the later years, again, as Mo had mentioned, I had managed with the senior executive team there the $23 million three-phase renovation of that project. We had actually had to do a lot of rehabilitation of that building because Noguchi, the artist who moved into Long Island City in Queens, actually bought a very old factory building that had not been really made equipped to handle visitors. It certainly didn't have ADA access, and when a number of years after he passed away, we realized that people did want to come see his collection, and we did want to present work in the best setting possible for the collection and for visitors. The board then decided to really take on this capital project, and I definitely spent a lot of time on that from the very first phase through the very end. And it basically wrapped up in about 2015, and at that time, I really thought that I needed to do something different. And even though I have my first love in the arts, and I will always be a big fan of museums, I really needed a challenge. And I came to WXY because of my interest in their work. Again, not a typical architecture firm doing residential or, high rises or luxury. The principals and the firm really is very civically minded, and again, being a community board member, I really wanted to be part of something that had had an influence over what we can build together with the community, with the talents and the great thinkers that are available here in New York City. The firm has worked widely with many engineers and other consultants on creating some of the projects that you saw earlier. So that's how I kind of landed at WXY. And when I first came, it was a much smaller firm. You see on this slide here that we grew to 50. When I first arrived, it was about maybe just 20 of us. And we had just completed some of these larger scale projects, the sea glass carousel, the sanitation garage. And the timing was such that, a lot of people were very interested in the types of work we did. And we also had great ambition. So we started really growing our portfolio. When I joined, my first title was really Director of Marketing and Operations. And I quickly realized that the marketing really needed to be built, and we have over time added more marketing staff, and in so doing also luckily have won new projects and needing new employees. So it's been growing, and we're now I think at about 54 employees, I'm proud to say. So that was my initial couple of years. And in the last 2 years, really, our marketing team has grown quite a bit. Now we have a team of 3 people, plus an intern. And in terms of the operations, I still oversee much of that, but I also have an administrative person to help who's our studio manager. And my role has changed quite a bit. As we've grown, our revenue's grown, and a lot more contractual admin and operations and HR functions come into play. And so my function now is really managing director, working very closely with the principals on kind of steering our ship, really. So that's a long and short of it.
Sure. No, thank you so much, Amy. I had a thought actually that is related to your slide deck. You had a slide in there of a bicyclist in Battery Park, and for anyone that's visited Manhattan, it's just such a beautiful area. And just personally, I've for a few years I've done the 5-borough bike tour, which is really wonderful. And so I've seen some of these places that you're talking about, and it's just incredible what your organization is doing for the betterment of the community. So just wanted to mention that.
That's great. Thank you so much. I hope others have the opportunity to see some of our great projects as well.
Yeah, and that kind of is a good sort of entry point to the next, or the main topic really is. I know that a lot of those events, like these sporting events and these large, which I'm sure some of these venues that you are talking about are not the same right now, in the COVID pandemic. So, would you like to share some highlights about, some of the post-COVID experience? What is the impact, and how are you all dealing with it?
Like I'm sure many other on the call who's listening in, I've been on a million webinars, I think, and so has everyone else, right? Trying to really kind of grapple with all that are at stakes. First of all, on the slide, you see here, we have over 200 projects with New York City agencies. And you can just imagine the financial impact this will have on our portfolio. I think, like everybody else, we've all been grappling with the financial, the operation, the HR, and just really trying to understand how to kind of take in all the information that we're all getting from so many different sources all at once. I have been working, again, very closely with the principals. We're now actually meeting weekly, where we used to meet maybe every 3 weeks or every month on finances. We're doing that every day and meeting every week to keep a close eye on what needs to be done to stabilize our firm. And unlike some other businesses, our firm particularly, have not really been a remote from home kind of model. We work very closely, and I'll just skip to the next slide here, just to show you all the faces that are involved. And we collaborate very closely on a daily basis on the project. So for us, having everybody in the room was very important for all those reasons. And it was quite a transition to quickly move from an in-office setting to a remote work environment. And luckily, we were sort of, watching the news January and February, and we were starting to think, okay, maybe we do need to start planning on a remote work situation. And so here in New York City, I think it was March 13 or 16, we went fully remote, got everybody back to their homes and working from home. But I think, with everything that's going on and all the financial, operational, HR, legal concerns that we all have to take in very quickly and process, I think the most difficult challenge has been HR, in the fact that people are really unsettled by what's going on. We all are. And I think, while you're taking in all the external forces, to also process what each of us at home is going through has been a big learning curve, right? We need to make time for everybody to make sure we understand how things are working at home for everyone. Some people may have childcare issues and can't focus, or others may be worried about their home life. If the situation with the rent here in New York being so high, people may necessarily make some changes, and it's that kind of uncertainty, like the daily onslaught of uncertainty for the first month or so was very, very unsettling. And I'm sure everybody on this call has experienced that. That said, we really try to look at the data, like Governor Cuomo. As he says, we'd have to look at the data and look at the facts. And so we try to, keep that going, and really, reaching out to all our project managers, reaching out to all our clients, making sure we understand where they are. And I have to say that at this point, I think they're a good outlook. I think some people are still very positive about continuing on with projects, which is fantastic. But also, there are others that may be challenging. And I think, sort of an outlook for what we were trying to do was to do a 4-month, 6-month, 9-month outlook. And that was March, the first week in March, we were talking about that. But now I think we need to look out further to a 1-year, 18-month kind of outlook, and really understand what's going on there. And I think our biggest challenge will be yet to come. I think that New York City's financial losses will have an impact on some of our projects. So we'll have more to report later.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a lot. I mean, we could probably spend a whole webinar or a couple of hours discussing all of these different areas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's see. I mean, I'd like to get to some legal topics. And before, my expertise is immigration, so I'd like to spend a little bit of time on the immigration side. But before we get there, could you tell us a little bit about other areas of law? Anything significant? I know that there's employment law issues and other types of situations that arise. So before we get to immigration, could you perhaps just highlight some of the other legal areas that have been brought to the forefront because of the crisis?
Right. I think, you named it, Mo. I think the biggest challenge right now is employment law and fortunately, we didn't have to make too many furloughs. There were some family emergency leave. So, we had to quickly learn about all the CARES Act relief effort that was available to both to us as an employer, but also understanding how that would impact our employees to help them, make that decision of, saying, hey, I need to, there's no way I can concentrate at work. I really need to have some time away from the job because I have a young child at home. So, just really quickly understanding all of these different HR-related things was a huge challenge. And I think, our biggest one is the one, Mo, we like to talk about is immigration. And I'm just going to jump right in if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The deck I have, the page I have on the computer right now is a compilation of headshots from our team. And this is not everyone. This is just the bulk of it that we can fit into a page. And you'll see we have very talented people, people who are project managers, brand specialists, graphic designers, planners, architects, of course, all coming from different backgrounds and very different work experiences, all adding to the work that we do here. And with our recruitment, we've always been very interested and keen on working with very bright, very talented folks. And, we have had, I don't know if there's a stat out there by the AIA, but we have a fair number of people who have joined us over the last year and a half who are on visa here in New York, in the U.S. And they could be anywhere from a TN type visa to H-1B to an O. And with all the COVID pandemic, it really brought to bear like how important it is to keep on top of some of these visa renewals. And I'll go right into telling you all how Mo and I started working together at the very onset. I think it was beginning of March, was it, Mo, that we started working together?
Right. Yeah.
We had already committed to a new hire who had already turned in his notice to his former company and needed to do a H-1B transfer. And it's, again, at the time we were like, oh, well, do we continue? Do we extend this job offer even with all of COVID happening? And of course, we're like, yes, because we are able to work remotely. Everybody has been able to kind of do their work and and team collaborate now much more so on virtual, but still able to do the meetings and review projects, that we wanted to honor the job offer that had already gone out. So that was our first case, right, Mo? And luckily, that was very easy to manage. It was a transfer. The staff member had already been working here for some time, and it was just a matter of transferring the H1 from his former employer to our firm. And invariably, there were a few other people who needed their visas renew, and I think the shock of not being able to do what they would normally do, like, somebody who might need to go back to Canada and cross the border and do a TN, really, that was not something that was feasible now with borders closing. And so that was a challenge. And there is somebody who is doing a TN visa right now. So we're crossing fingers that everything will go smoothly. So again, I can update you all later. But what COVID did, I think very much of a surprise to us is, we do have so many people coming from all over the world. We actually have 2 of our staff members who are in Europe right now and remoting in every day from Europe. And, I think this is going to be a real telling story about all of this, because I'm sure some of the audience out there have had staff who may be, remoting from upstate New York or, in New Jersey or something, but not at their permanent home. But for us, I thought it was really interesting that we actually have 2 people who felt that they needed to get back to their home country and be with their families for now. And I thought, fine, that's not a huge issue, but we definitely need Mo's help in trying to understand what that will, how that will impact their immigration status. So, Mo, I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Sure. No, I mean, I think that these are, very relevant questions. I think if I heard you correctly on the last question, if you could just clarify a little bit. I'm sorry. So were you saying about the ability
to continue work, and for how long? In Europe, and not jeopardize their immigration status. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, and it's important. I think this is just by way of explanation. When folks that are not super familiar with the immigration field, when the term immigration is used, a lot of people think about people crossing over the border to get green cards or asylum and refugees. A lot of or family-based immigration, and a path to U.S. citizenship, etc. But a lot of the work that we do in the professional positions and the employment-based side, much of it is what you're describing, is the non-immigrants who are advanced degree professionals that have graduated from U.S. schools or that are already working at other companies in existing H status or TN, and so that's the big area of like employment based, where we really can't wait for the very long-term process to take place for, let's say, a green card that could take several years. The need is now, like, for this resource to be providing services. So the non-immigrant system is designed to be quicker. And now in this case, and just coming back to so I just wanted to clarify the 2 buckets, right? And so we're dealing a lot with non-immigrant visas. So in this case where you have someone that's hired full time to be based in the U.S. because the H's, for example, and even the TNs, which, by the way, the TN, for those who don't know, it's a special uh, uh, visa for Mexican nationals and Canadian nationals that is a little bit more flexible, and the processing of it is less burdensome than for an H-1B visa. And Canadians, for example, don't even have to really petition the USCIS. They can just cross the border and announce that they're seeking TN status, and they mostly get it. Um, so the issue here, Amy, in your situation is that, we originally represented to the U.S. government that these workers will be based in the U.S. working at a specific location.
Right.
And now they're outside the U.S.
Well,
and they're
those
performing.
that are on but Mo, those that are on TN are here in the States. It's another category that's in Europe.
Mhm. Right. So the H,
Yeah.
and the green card, I think that's what we're talking about.
Right.
For the H, it's actually, so there's not so much of a U.S. side issue, because when they're outside the country, they're not really subjected to the U.S. immigration requirement. So if they go out of country for vacation and now they're out of country because of a global crisis, the relationship will, certainly, the employment side of it will require compliance. But for the H's, it's actually better for them to be outside the country because they're, the time that they have, the duration which they have, which is limited. For H's, it's a total of 6 years that they get.
Right.
So if they're based outside the country, then the time spent overseas doesn't count against that 6-year limit.
Right.
But given enough time, like if you have, let's say, 6 months or more outside the country and then working in a foreign country, the issue then is to look at the foreign country rules. If they're a citizen of that foreign country where they're working, that country may have an interest in getting involved.
Right.
On the green card side, it's green card holders kind of are treated pretty much like U.S. nationals. So the fact that they're overseas for an extended period of time doesn't pose like an employment issue. It does, in the long term, create challenges for them to maintain their green card status.
Right.
Because under the rules, they have to show that their permanent residence and domicile, principal place, is the U.S. So I think, but I guess the word of advice would be that these folks need to document the attempts they make to come back to the U.S. That they have not permanently sort of decided to move, that, okay, now our job description has changed and we're just going to be remote permanently.
Well, not only that, I mean, they still have their apartments here in New York. They haven't closed those, avenues off at all. And so, but, I think it would be very interesting, again, understanding how expensive it is to live in New York. Like, how long can you carry an apartment for while you're, living somewhere else? So, yeah, we're facing quite a bit of challenges. And I think, as you said, Mo, I think there's a lot of cross collaboration with employment law here that we need to also kind of work with. So I've had to learn very quickly with the guidance of Mo and his colleague, who is also our employment attorney, to kind of get guidance on a lot of these questions and try to come through that with everybody intact, or just doing what they need to do.
Yeah, and yes, and as a immigration lawyer, staying on top of very quick moving developments from the Citizenship and Immigration Service, from the
Mhm.
Department of Labor. Um, it requires a lot of close collaboration
Yeah.
with other colleagues. There are specific guidance and kind of like a what you may call relaxation of certain
Mhm.
rules that have been given recently. So, for example, like we used to have to file documents with original ink signatures.
Right.
Petitions would get rejected, and there's a huge push for electronic filing, which most of our
Mhm.
employment-based cases we still have to file in paper the old-fashioned way.
Mhm.
So we see some of this, in a way, this crisis is pushing the agency towards adopting more technology. Um, and, it's just simply not feasible anymore right now to have a
Right.
lot of physical um, things being mailed in hard copy from the clients that sometimes are overseas. Um, and certain other deadlines, like for example, if we have cases where there were requests for evidence pending, which
Mhm.
is responding to the government, they did extend some of those deadlines. Um,
Mhm.
Another issue that's come up a lot are folks that have like uh, visas that are expiring and they can't travel back to their home countries because they're under lockdown. Um,
Exactly.
they are now like even for students that have ended their terms and they're done with their student visa and they have to leave. There's a change of status petitions that are being filed based on humanitarian reasons, where
Wow.
switch somebody can switch to like a tourist visa and say that there's
Wow.
like you know um, so yeah, so
That, that
we'll see how this.
that's really great to
Yeah.
hear, Mo. That's really great to
Mm.
hear because I think it might come up for us
Mm.
in another month's time. I mean, again, just not knowing the uncertainty of when these lockdowns will be lifted and when they do, like how what traveling will be like. I think a lot of people are very concerned, right, for their own health and safety. And even if you can travel, would you want to travel? But I think in those situations where you said, people with visas, that definitely, will spur them to like make, you know, decisions all based on the immigration status that they're on. So yeah, it's a totally different kind of challenge than um, the kinds of I've been participating in a lot of webinars about the PPP and the IDLE and HR issues, but I think we definitely have a unique situation on our hands here.
Yes. So okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit
Yes.
from immigration. So we normally keep these webinars to about an hour. We're about, let's say, 10 minutes away. Um,
Yep.
let's see. Okay, so how do you see the short-term future outlook for your business? Like what, in let's say in the 6 months or so, what is going on in terms of strategy and planning, um,
Mhm.
and then what the next question would be like, what do you think the long-term outlook will be?
Oh, if I only had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
um, well, again, when we in mid-March, when we went into a full-on stabilization plan, we really considered the idea of not just stabilizing ourselves as a firm. We did that. We filed for the PPP, we got it, and we got most of the team intact, and um, the other side of that token is really about helping our communities. That stabilization needs to come from us to all our clients and to people that we work with. Luckily, we have been asked to participate in, webinars like this. Claire Weiss and Adam Lubinsky have been conducting various future thinking and future imagination of post-COVID world webinars with different organizations. And I think one of the most exciting things that we've been asked to help out on is a sort of a modeling of what return to school will be like for the fall. We teamed up with a local charter school who really wanted to bring in a lot of expertise to think this out. And it's not just the all the changes that have to be made within the four walls of the school itself, but as planners, we're asking questions like, well, how are the kids getting to school? And when they arrive, is there a holding station where they can all get, temperature check? And, just having all these staging areas, right? Understanding how that will impact and spew outside of the walls of the school, that might happen on a sidewalk, for instance. And, so we're looking at all these different things, and we're really delighted to help this charter school. And I think I can send a link. I think they did a little PR last night. And they really want to think of themselves as a lab to create these conversations so that we can all benefit from how we plan to go back to life, especially for school children. And here in New York City, not all kids are dropped off by their parents in a car. Many of them might take public transportation. And so I think that's been a real kind of eye-opener for us to really think things like this out. And yeah, we will participate in other conversations with other agencies or entities and organizations that may have to rethink what post-COVID life will be like.
Wow, yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just so much that is left to the imagination because depending on how soon a vaccine is found and
Right.
if the forecasting is just what I think is are we going to witness just a change in how our the workspace is structured. For example, I have clients that have very open workspaces, very collaborative, and they're like large groups of people working together in the same large room. But now we're looking at situations where there's almost like a rationing of space, like not like a certain number of people at a certain on a certain day, and so how the architecture profession comes into that, like the question I guess would be like the design of like if we assume the worst and if we say it's here to stay, then I'm sure there's architects giving some thought to that, and that's just going to be hopefully doesn't come to pass. Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't come to pass, but I think there are a lot of interesting challenges for for us anyway here in the city, looking at taller buildings, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of concern about air ventilation in COVID and how, we're lucky our offices are in an older building where the windows open and you can get nice air circulation. But even Claire Weiss had provided some comments and a sketch to a article earlier this week in the Wall Street Journal about how some of these commercial buildings, office buildings, may have to design outdoor terraces somehow and give give ability to open windows and get air circulation throughout the building. So there's a lot to determine still, and I think this is just the beginning, and we may be living with it for a little while, as you say, Mo.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, all right. So what are some things that you like seeing in attorneys that you work with, and some things that you don't like?
Ooh, tough question. I think certainly you need to have the support of an attorney who understands your practice and everything that may arise in a situation. And I definitely rely on a lot of my peers and colleagues to kind of, share, we'll say, war stories and say, how certain things can be mitigated, and is the counsel for your firm, able to help mitigate certain situations, whatever they may be. And in this situation with the immigration, and both immigration and employment law, I think I've been very lucky. It's been great working with you, Mo, and your colleague here in New York on the employment side. And it's just a matter of really getting somebody who are experts in their field and be able to parse out some of the concerns and be able to sort of forewarn before something goes bad, right? I mean, I think it's always part of risk management to try and make sure things don't go down the wrong road.
Yeah, sure. No, I think, yeah, the expertise is key because, you're focused on so many different things, and so
exactly
to have the right answers on these challenges is useful.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me see. Let me just make a quick comment. I think that you've left us with a lot of things to think about, and you've really educated us as well on these different topics.
I'm glad.
I think part of my job is made more interesting by having clients that have different business challenges and different geographic, locations and different people, so that my work stays interesting by just kind of being able to plug into your world a little bit.
Right.
So with that, I just kind of open it to you, Amy, for any concluding remarks, any things that you want to leave the audience with.
Well, I think there are so many experts out there in the audience. I do not think I want to give any advice in any way, because I'm sure you all have been managing brilliantly in your own ways. I think what I told here today is really sort of an ongoing story that's not, the final chapter's not been written yet. I think I'll still need to work with Mo and other attorneys and other experts in the months ahead to figure out, some of our issues that we may come across. I think this has been an interesting learning period for myself, and I think even for our principals. I think we're all learning, right? New tasks, new skills, new information about everything from SBA loans to air ventilation for coronavirus. So it's been a real interesting couple of months so far. And again, this is not the end of the story by any means. And I will turn this over to the audience and say if there's any questions, I'd be happy to, answer what I can. But I think Mo is the expert.
Thanks for your kind words. Okay, do we have any questions? Let's see. Okay, well, Amy, let me just, we'll give a minute for questions.
Yep.
But just housekeeping wise, this recording will be available for folks that want to register and listen to later. Please, as always, send me an email. This is for the audience members. If you have questions or comments or suggestions, we really appreciate your feedback to make these better. I will have another webinar next week, and we'll announce details for that, like they'll go out via email. So we don't have any questions right now, but so we'll conclude on that note. I'm gonna, Amy, I just want to say, I appreciate so much you taking time to be with us. I wish you the best of luck. I know you have a ton of stuff going on, but I really like, you have a very positive attitude and mindset, and that's been wonderful to really be able to experience. And for the listeners, that we're all in this together, and these are tough times, but we'll make it through. Please stay safe. Hope you and yours are all safe and healthy. Wear the mask. Stay home.
Yep. Yes.
And I want to say thank you to Jennifer Helfand, our Director of Marketing, who does a wonderful job with helping us put these together. So with that, I will say bye-bye. Take care. See you later. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, audience.